Welcome to the AI Executive Podcast. I'm your host, Albert Ramos, and today we have an incredible guest joining us, Melissa Kraft, the Chief Information Officer for the City of Frisco, Texas. Melissa is a visionary leader in public sector technology with a deep passion for driving innovation, enhancing cybersecurity, and leveraging AI to improve city operations. Her career is nothing short of impressive. Before leading Frisco's digital transformation, she served as the Chief Information Officer for Dallas County, overseeing technology for 6,600 employees and 2.6 million residents. She also has held leadership roles in Denton and the private sector, and she even spent nearly 9 years in the U.S. Army directly network operations in Baghdad, Iraq. Melissa, thank you for your service. Wow, what an honor. Melissa's expertise in AI, data analytics, and cybersecurity has earned her numerous accolades, including being a finalist for CIO of the Year in Dallas. I saw a ton of posts on LinkedIn. People were so proud of you and so thankful for all that you have done. Also, a 2024 Digital Cities Survey winner by the Center for Digital Government and a Local Smart Leaders Award nominee. Her work in shaping the future of smart cities, proving that AI and technology can drive meaningful change in government and public services, has gone so recognized. We are so proud and so excited for this conversation. So today, we'll dive into how AI is revolutionizing city infrastructure, cybersecurity, and citizen engagement, and what the future of AI in government looks like. Melissa, welcome to the AI Executive Podcast, Season 2, Episode 2. We're so excited, and it's an honor to have you here.
Well, thank you for having me here. I'm really excited, and you are officially my resume writer. So thank you for doing that.
Well, you have an impressive background, and I wanted to take my time to go through exactly what you've been up to. You know, before we started recording here, we were chatting about it, and
Mhm.
wow, you've done some amazing things. I mean, Frisco, Texas. I mean, everyone knows about it now.
Mhm.
Whereas before it was an upcoming city, right,
Yep.
in near McKinney and Plano and some others, Allen, and now it's the center of what's happening specifically in
Mhm.
Texas innovation, Texas tech, right, technology that is. And so, wow, I mean, I'm so happy and honored to have you on here to chat through what you've been up to, and I'll get right to it. I mean, as I mentioned, you have an impressive career in public sector IT. And as I
Mhm.
mentioned, from leading technology at Dallas County, and now as you've really shaped and been a pioneer with Frisco, Texas digital future. My question to kick this off is what sparked
Mhm.
your passion for technology and AI in the government space?
So I think the passion really strives from trying to make a positive difference in the community, and I've been fortunate where I saw that really early in my career. I joined the military when I was 17, so I saw
Wow.
directly that impact on technology, automation, and really seeing what it can provide as far as safety and action. So I think it really drives back to that, just having that passion for making a difference, and technology is just one of those segues to get there.
Well, I've been following you on LinkedIn quite a bit from not only your posts, but those that you recognize. And I appreciate that about you. You really are a servant leader and you care deeply about others in your network and just acknowledge them all along the way and support them and motivate them. So not only are you a pioneer and just what I would call hustler in the space, but you're bringing a lot of people along with you. And just it's great to know that we have leaders in our cities like Frisco and overall in Texas like you. I feel confident about our children's future. So thank you for all that you do.
Well, it's not really me, it's our team, right? I
Right.
just help kind of orchestrate that together a little bit, but it really does take a team. And not just the IT team, our departmental team and executive team. So
And I want to get back to that because I know you're really big about promoting less silo, but more collaboration. So we'll get to
absolutely.
that. Now, my next question is you've worked at both county and city levels. What
Mhm.
have you found to be the biggest differences in how AI and technology are adopted in some of these tiers of government scales, right?
Oh,
How does
yes.
that work out?
Well, that's such an interesting question. I can go a lot of different places, but I'll start off with this. Counties, they're very focused on broader, right? Like, for instance, Dallas County had over 50 cities within its jurisdiction, and their primary focus isn't really directly impacting the community unless it's public health. But primarily, their driving factors are, ensuring we have elections that are fair and with integrity,
It's great.
and jail, right? That's really their primary focus in the court system, jail, court system, and everything else. Whereas for cities, it's really more on, traffic, very public safety, safe roads, everything that's publicly visible. You get to see it a little more and it has that direct impact. As a result, you see a little more agility with cities. Cities don't have as much bureaucracy as counties, to be frank. So on the county side, I'll use this as an example because it stayed with me till this day. I had to go through our legislative affairs office to get a policy change for cybersecurity training so we can train our courts. If they want to access our network, they have to get cybersecurity training, right? As a best practice. You
Right.
should be doing that, right? Because that's how you mitigate phishing attacks, and everything else. We literally had to go to downtown Austin to get a legislative change so I can reset people's passwords and lock them
Wow.
out. That would never be the case in a city, right? Even setting AI policies and guidelines, it's like, okay, boom, let's go. The biggest thing is, how is it going to impact the citizens? How is it going to impact operations? What's the bottom line, or what value are we getting out of these initiatives, right? Those are much
Right.
easier to get through and have agility with. So,
Well, you've put Frisco on the map as a smart city,
mhm,
right? And kind of going back to that and specific to how AI has played a role and in the innovation that you've created or at least have sparked in Frisco. How does AI, for the audience out there that is wondering,
mhm,
the city of Frisco is rapidly growing, right? I remember back
absolutely.
when I was in Allen in 2018, 2019. Frisco was on the map, right? There was a lot of commercials and excitement
Yeah.
about tech
They
and
were smaller, right? Back
yes,
then.
you were smaller, and we had a lot of companies coming to Texas, and they really wanted to be in Frisco, right?
Mhm,
Because there was just so much opportunity. And now, what is it? 8 years later, 7 to 8 years later, I mean, look where it's at, and you've been at the forefront of that. How has AI played a role in the smart city initiatives that you've really put out there? Like you mentioned, transportation,
mhm.
energy efficiency, and public safety.
So it's really core as far as what we do. It's actually one of the top council initiatives is technology and innovation, also including our Frisco Economic Development Corporation. Again, that interdepartmental kind of vision and mission really kind of sticks behind. And really, we try to prioritize our efforts in three key focus areas, which is mobility, transportation, and public safety, right? So we really try to hone in and leverage AI in those capacities to really kind of affect that primary goal we're trying to do, right? Which is, a smarter and safer connected community, but also doing it in a way that's responsible and effective, right? You got to balance that, right? We're working on taxpayers. I'm also a resident as well. My
I
husband's
love
in
that.
law enforcement. It's like,
Oh,
I
that's
personally
awesome.
care about this too. My kids go to FISD. So, how do we ensure we're driving the best possible outcome?
Yeah,
But
you're a
another
community
thing,
member.
even before we talk about AI, it's really the way I describe it to our leadership team. It's like having a really smart intern that's on 24/7. You just can't let it go off on its own. You gotta be able to put boundaries on it and work with it. It's not supposed to replace any human connection. It's there as a service to help you provide a service or help you become more operationally efficient. So,
I love
and I,
that,
I
and I
think
want to.
having that framework really, I think, helps our departments to buy into it too as well. It's like, no, we're not getting rid of jobs. It's supposed to, for instance, this is how I describe it inside of IT in our project management. Instead of them having to do all these meeting notes and meeting capture, well, we use AI for that now. And then instead of putting summarization on meeting notes, now they're spending more time in stakeholder management, which is where we want them to be, right? So it's some of these things that you just got to kind of talk through the little small cases, and then people build trust, and then you can kind of build momentum from there.
It's music to our ears. I wish we had more city
Mhm.
leaders like you that are thinking the way you are. And I want to get back to that point. You use the word called balance, and I believe you're spot on, right? A balance
Mhm.
from using this technology that has advanced and it's at our fingertips while also maintaining a personal connection with our community members. By the way,
Absolutely.
I do want to acknowledge before I get to the rest of that question, I want to acknowledge your husband and the work he does as a public
Mhm.
servant, as a police officer. Thank you so much. And law enforcement, thank you so much to your husband. And then kind of going back to my intro, thank you for your service to our country as well. So impressive. And we really appreciate you. Going back to balance around
Mhm.
AI and automation and the balance between that and the personal touch, the personal connections.
Yes.
What's your approach in the city of Frisco when it comes to city services and serving community members with both paths?
So I think we're actually in the process of implementing kind of an AI customer service agent. And I wish Nick was here from White Glove because he'll be able to explain it way better than I can. He did not pay me to say that, just for the record, okay? But I think it's such a neat concept because it's pulling in information from this different sources, but also really hearing what we're getting on voicemails and giving us themes and analytics out of it. What would take
Exactly.
someone several hours to compile and go through, we can now do essentially in minutes. Again, it's still not replacing that human touch because they'll still call back for those urgent ones and make sure it's prioritized. But it's an example of how it can help us be more efficient in how we interface with our customers, our residents, our communities. So I think that that's going to be key. Also, leveraging AI in some of our traffic automation as well. That's going to be key. We use it also internally for chatbots to be able to query our own data. That's one thing. Government, we have lots and lots and lots of
Right.
data for years and years. Well, how do we streamline that data and make it easier to get to, right? So those are a couple of concepts we're working through and using at the moment.
I absolutely love that. And to your point, right, you have a vested interest as well, not just a leader, but as a
Yes,
community member. Your kiddos
absolutely.
go to the local schools there, right?
Mhm.
You're a part of the
Yep.
community, you're a taxpayer. And for those that will be listening to this, not only in the city of Frisco, but all around
Mhm.
Texas and nationwide, right? I think we're at a time as we hear it on the news
Yes,
quite a bit right now, is we want to know that our taxpayer money is going to
absolutely.
great things and that the municipalities or government entities are being
Mhm.
efficient and productive
Yeah.
with those monies. And so I love that you said that,
Mhm.
you know, using and yes, at White Glove AI, it's what a great example.
Mhm.
We do it really well, where it's not only creating a great community member experience, right, and hyper personalized experience, but from someone like from a city or a different enterprise or business, you can actually use the data to make it even a better
Absolutely.
experience for that end user, in this case,
Yeah.
our community members. So I love the way you're thinking, because not only are we efficient,
Mhm.
we're spending our dollars wisely, but we're
Absolutely.
also circling back to the analytics that we get when you interact with
Mhm.
the AI bots or chatbots or agents, to allow us to be even better for the community, Frisco in this case, to be better for the community. I love that. What
Yeah,
are your
and
thoughts?
also
Why?
to
Oh, go
add,
ahead.
oh, sorry, you can tell I'm super excited about AI.
Yeah, I love
But
it.
to also add to that, AI ethical use and responsible use, putting an AI policy in place that kind of gives us our guidelines when it makes sense to use and when it doesn't make sense to use, I think is
Right.
key as well, right? So just want to let people know, understanding your data, how it's being leveraged, and know that, it's being used in a very ethical way. And, also training comes into play with that too. One of our things that we've kicked off this past year through our data program is, data literacy training. We have
Oh
self
my goodness, it's
guides and everything
amazing.
else where you can prompt train. Also joining from a national level, we're a member of the San Jose AI committee. So we're seeing how other cities are doing. That's the one great thing about working in the public sector. It's not trade secrets. We're all trying to solve
Right.
very similar problems and just trying to learn from others. So we're not repeating those mistakes, right? Again, it's having that network, having those partners like White Glove that understand the importance of cybersecurity. So, in Frisco, we adhere to NIST moderate 800 53 framework. So it's always important we're thinking
Excellent.
about kind of that as we're building, whether it's internal solutions or even outsourcing or using off the shelf solutions. So it's pretty key. It's
It's
being
great.
intentional about how we prioritize where we spend our resources.
Yeah, I'll tell you, and I know this will be a pretty popular sentiment out there from our community members. When we have a leader that is speaking to and acting upon this
Mhm.
technology like you are when you're thinking about it from an ethical, right,
Absolutely.
perspective, and also keeping in mind data privacy, right, regulation, and cybersecurity. That makes me feel really comfortable knowing that I'll be interacting with my
Mhm.
local government with some of these tools, but understanding that, hey, my data is secure. And by the
Yes.
way, it's also allowing my government partners to work
Mhm.
with my family even better. And so that's amazing. I love that. And I want to come back to cybersecurity, but before I do, what do you think are the barriers to other cities following Frisco's example? What is it? What is, because you made a good point, right? There's no trade secrets. This is public,
No, no, it's
right?
not. It's
Yeah.
not. So
So
it's not
what
the
is the barrier,
technology. It's change management. It really
right?
is. It's change management. As far as the process changes and the people changes that have to occur to really take advantage of the technology, right? So, we don't do a big bang approach, and I think that's what makes City of Frisco very agile. We're very intentional about incremental change. So as you're learning, if you got to pivot, you can easily pivot. So we don't do these large multi-million dollar projects that take 3 years to implement. We do pilots. We start off with one department, prove the model, look at the
Awesome.
governance, right? Because we do have an AI governance. Again, we have policies as we're testing these out, as we're testing the pilot groups. We're understanding what works and what doesn't, especially with something that's so new. You want to
Mm,
be able to have a chance to, quite frankly, fail. But when I say fail, be able to test what it is you're trying to do, right? Fail safely, have your risks and have those different focal points, but also have the business buy-in, right? So I don't think we would be able to look at AI traffic solutions without traffic being excited about the technology, right? They're the ones that are saying the story. It's not me saying how great it is. They're telling, city manager's office, we love working with IT and we want more of this and we want to look at this data analytic tool and leverage information. Oh, I don't know if I'm supposed to say vendors, but leverage this
it's okay.
this tool as a glossary, right? Like they're talking those terms. It's not our staff. We're just here to help facilitate and partner to really create that most efficient solution. So
That's great. Well, let me ask you this. What made you take the first step in this case, right, with White Glove AI and with Nick James, our CEO and founder? What was it for you? You seem to be, you do your research and your homework. I could tell
mhm.
just looking at your bio and having a conversation with you, right? You don't do things from the hip. You're going to take your time and make sure that's methodical and well thought out, which again, as a community member,
And not take
I
too much time. We have to be a little agile too, right? So
yeah, exactly. Well, no, it's good because as a community member, I feel really
yeah,
confident that I have leadership that, are they're thinking through scenario A, B, C, D, right?
yes.
So for other city leaders out there that are going to be watching this, that are watching this,
Mhm.
what can you provide an example or maybe walk us through what was it that made you take the step to say, okay, let's invest here, let's invest in AI, and let's give back to our community. And in this case, right, you partnered up with White Glove AI, but can you provide some best
Okay.
practices or some advice?
So, White Glove AI came in through our Frisco Economic Development Corporation. They're here housed in Frisco. It's like, yeah, let's have a chat and talk about what are some of the key things that are going on with the city, right? Again, those three focus areas around transportation, mobility, and public safety. And let's talk about some of the pain points. And that's where we were starting to kind of just brainstorm, have a really kind of casual conversation. And then we started to go through the ideation, like, well, what if and what can we? And, let's look at a smaller pilot. And then, for instance, with this pilot with traffic and the AI call center service, we can use this model and repurpose this model in other areas too, right? And that's the goal, right? Like, how do you scale the scalability and the feasibility, right? But if you start off small, it's a lot easier to get off the ground and get that buy-in and build that trust, right? Because when I first got here, I'm like, data is my passion, right? Even in, Dallas County, we run an international data award through our Health and Human Services. We built a health and
Nice.
disease surveillance system. That was one of my, I would say, passion projects. It's really Dr. Juan. Again, I was just, I was like, all right, what do we need to do? Let's go, go, go. We built a health and disease surveillance system that was integrating from multiple sources, including labs. And he was able to push the state to modify their processes and their intake to create a API standard that is now being leveraged, across the state. Like that is super neat. That's what it's meant for, right? Again, figuring out how to make the best impact. I feel like I kind of went off a little bit, but
No, it was great.
yeah,
And I
I
think
think
what
okay, the
I
goal is to find something that, there's a pain point you're trying to solve, and how can you partner with those that want to partner and show that as a pilot, and then kind of just take it from there, knowing that you can scale out. It builds trust.
it's I think, and you didn't go off. This is amazing because of what I
Okay.
love that people are going to see and hear is just your passion, right? And I think that is truly a differentiator here. And my challenge to, and I'll do this, right? And my challenge to the rest of different city leaders throughout the state of Texas is level up, right? Step up because our community
Yeah,
members really need this, and it does
absolutely.
so much good as to your point. And
Mhm,
as you speak of these different projects and the different initiatives that you're a part of and that you're spearheading, we need more of this. We need more of this
mhm,
across the state. So it's really really great. And you really reminded me as you were talking about beta testing or piloting
mhm,
and evaluating or assessing your AI governance and your governance committee. It reminds me of our AI AMF framework, which I know
mhm.
you've had visibility on. You've
Yes.
participated in reviewing, and we really appreciate
Mhm.
you for doing that. There's
Yep.
quite
And
a
we borrowed
few.
some of it too for our AI
I love
governance.
it. Yes, and
Nick
that's what
did
we
not pay
want,
me for
right?
that, okay?
To your point, right? And we've put it out there, right? It's
Yeah.
no secret. We want to share our framework. And there's other consulting firms that have come out with frameworks, but we've worked with people like you and some others in the technology space and all across different industries.
Mhm.
And we feel really good about our framework and what we've done, and it's creating results, right? Where there are a lot of people that, with all the tools out there and all the changes that are happening, they feel a little paralyzed because they don't have that framework. And so we're really excited about helping
Mhm.
people, start. So we'll get that up on the screen if we can here in a bit. But I'd love to switch gears. You mentioned it, and this potentially is a variable about why maybe cities or even the private sector hasn't adopted as quickly as some others
Mhm.
or like you is cybersecurity, right? It's protecting the data and the fear of leakage, right? Of
Mhm.
some of these threats, cybersecurity threats, especially the social engineering, ransomware. We're hearing that a lot lately, phishing. And so there's been a lot of growing concern, not only in the private sector, but also local government. So
Mhm.
what are your thoughts and what are some of the actions you've taken, knowing that you've leaned into AI, but you're really strengthening? What have you done to strengthen Frisco's cybersecurity posture and stance?
Well, I use this example, and I won't name the other city, but we do use AI, and we faced a similar cyber attack that another city did. And because of our automation and technology, it really didn't affect us, but it affected another city, right?
Mm,
Like big time. We've been down for over a month, and they had to do
right.
the public reporting and everything else. So it can be used for good, as we know, it can be used for bad. But I don't have a 24/7 network operations center or cybersecurity analyst that's looking at my logs all the time, right? You can certainly outsource some of that, but you still need tools in place. And this is where AI really kind of helps take a quick snapshot of the environment and automatically do some of our work rules based on the parameters that we set. Again, it still requires that human intervention and touch, kind of like that intern concept. But, if you put the guidelines and you're able to produce reports and monitor it, there's a way to sustain it too as well and understand where its limitations and gaps are, right? So, that I think that's part of it. It's where we are today. Why not take advantage of what's out there?
Well, I love that. And you're using AI and automation for threat
Hmm.
detection, right? And really
Yes.
protecting the community data as well as
Yeah.
the data that you have internally
Yeah.
within Frisco. So I love
Yeah.
that. That's as far
I
as
know. It's
preventing.
fun fact. I was, we do City Hall one-on-one where our
Wow.
residents can kind of see a day in the life of each of the department. In the IT stuff, I was like, yeah, at one point we were getting over 500,000 of, attacks on our environment. Good news is we have tools in place that can help us readily and quickly answer that too as well. So the threat is real, right? So, why not leverage these tools that can assist with that?
Well, it's funny you say that. The threat is real, right? And what I like to do is acknowledge that there is a threat, right? You just mentioned some recent examples, right? And
Hmm.
how the city of Frisco was able to overcome and mitigate because you've leaned into and have invested in AI and automation. right? And unfortunately, there's been some other cities that haven't and don't
Mhm.
understand that this threat
Yeah.
of even some of these bad players
Well,
using
they are
agent.
now. I will
Yeah,
say
they're
they did get funding
good.
and they are doing that.
I
So I
love it.
was like,
I
hey,
love it.
you never let an incident go to waste. So use that as a way to kind of get some of these tools and support. And they are.
Well, these threats are becoming more advanced, right? The intelligence
Absolutely.
specific to
Mhm.
agentic workflows and agents,
Oh,
like
yeah.
it is an absolute must. So for those community members or even
Absolutely.
government leaders,
Yeah.
we have to make this a part of the conversation. Going back to
Mhm.
our framework, that's a big piece of it too, right? It's just that mitigation or what I would call loss prevention, right? Or data security. And I just love that you are spending a lot of time in there. It's a high priority for you and
Mhm.
your team, and I know the community members will
Yeah.
appreciate that as they listen too, because not a lot of people hear this side of things, and it's going to be
Mhm.
great when people are listening to this and hearing directly from you.
And I always tell people like, hey, if we want to use these emerging technologies, our data foundation has to be solid, right? So there's going to take some care and feeding, and this is where kind of some of these tools come into play as well.
That's great. Well, I want to kind of circle back. We're talking a little bit about adoption from other cities, right? And I was
Mhm.
wondering what is the barrier. So I want to talk a little bit more about adoption, right? Typically, what I've found and what we've found is there is a resistance due to internal
Mhm.
legacy systems and trying to unwind that, or even maybe community members are fearful. They're not quite, or maybe there is some uncertainty. So maybe some cultural barriers or mindset barriers. How did the city of Frisco navigate through all of that and come out on the end where you've leaned in and you're actually using these tools?
So it's different with City of Frisco. I think everyone's open to change and open to testing and piloting things. So as long as they know up front what it is they're testing, how long they're testing, and what is the outcome we hope to achieve, I think they're pretty much, open to it. We don't really have that internal resistance to change like you see in other organizations. I can speak of maybe my previous organizations where change was hard, quite frankly, right? Some of that really came down to knowing how it affects them personally as an individual contributor, as a department, as how does it impact their daily operations, right? So as part of that, it's not just the technology, but having an understanding of what those processes look like before the change and after the change, but also skilling your staff. I think that's so critical. And that's one of the things we do here in Frisco. Maybe that's why we don't encounter as much change because we do put effort in upskilling our staff, not even just within IT, outside of IT in our departments. As HR, we spend time training staff on leadership and that servant
Wow.
leadership mindset. So that's key there too. I think it's training and being transparent and being open as far as why we're changing, what we're doing. One of the things that our city manager and mayor, they're really big on our city core values, right? So whenever you're looking at a project, well, what values this tying back to? What is the purpose, right?
Oh, I love
Being
that.
intentful because, Frisco moves really quick. We still have a lot of growth left to do. So being
Right.
intentional about our time is key, right? So yeah, I think one department said, "Don't rest on your laurels because you'll just get left behind if you do." And I'm like, yeah, I think we can all agree with that. As Frisco's growing, especially as it's evolving, right? We got a new Universal Studios that's coming. Was it next year or so? We have World Cup that's coming. We have the
Wow.
women's PGA Championship. We have a lot of these larger events and large scale events. We have to ensure people feel safe when they come visit. Our residents feel safe, and we have those tools. So I always say this, and Frisco is one of the safest cities in the U.S. That wasn't by mistake. That was very intentional because of those three things we prioritize. Right? I go back to the beginning of the conversation. Public safety, transportation, mobility is core to what we do, right? And keeping the lights on well, which means making sure the streets look good, water turns on, and some of these things that we can continue to look to keep up with. So
Well, I definitely hear your passion around how you and the city of Frisco has modernized the IT infrastructure, right? And then, I didn't expect this part of your answer, and I'm really impressed. You just seem not only is your passion um, contagious, right? I feel it through the screen here right now. And you just seem like someone that I would want to work with and work for, to be quite honest, with your
mm,
attention to the team member experience. It's like you're almost listening to our morning buzz shows that we have Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. We have them at 7:30, and actually one recently, as of this morning, and this may not line up as far as timing goes, but we had one this morning, which is March 13th, and we were talking about upskilling the labor force. And as you were talking about this right now, I got fired up. I'm excited about the culture that you've created at your team. And what I'd love to do is just unravel that for other city leaders. Like, what
Mhm.
specifically do you do? You talked about a lot of upskilling and development
Yes.
activities, right? What specific things, maybe 2 to 3 things that you do with your team or have done or plan on doing in the future that maybe some other city leaders can replicate?
So one of the things we're intentional about, we've, upon my onboarding, we've developed career ladders, right? So when someone wants to grow within their role, or if they want to grow as a senior technical or architect or principal architect, we have that pathway. Or if they want to cross over to management as well, we also have internal training programs, both on for the cybersecurity in our project management office, where we'll take staff and kind of show them and give them projects they can work on, or have them work on cybersecurity projects. That's how we are able to promote from within. We recently expanded our cybersecurity team, and two of those promotions came from internal, right? Because they
Excellent.
had a chance to look at this mentorship team. One of the things we also encourage to go to these different events, whether it's Gartner or some of these technical events, to learn and see what others are doing. Like I encourage serving. I have one person who's serving on a Microsoft board. I serve on an InfraGard
Wow.
board. Other that AI San Jose committee, like I mentioned. This is encouraged, right? This is encouraged top down, right? We want to know and we want to engage with others to see what they're doing. How can we learn from each other, and also network and brainstorm. So I think just being intentional about that time, and also putting investment in time to research and develop. Right. And that's one of the things. I won't say too official, but we are talking about developing an innovation fund specifically for some of these R&D projects. Right. So that's from the top, and this is again one of the council's biggest initiatives this year is technology and innovation. Right. That's from the
Excellent.
mayor, council members, city manager's office. Everyone is aware that these are key things. Even looking on the outside, as we're bringing in kind of businesses and recruiting businesses to the city of Frisco, if you look at the Frisco Economic Development Corporation, one of their key pillars is the smart city innovation. Like they put, again, being intentional about what we're trying to do and how we're trying to scale. So, and also partnerships. I think that's another thing that we actively look for and encourage our staff to do. Go talk to your partner and see what they're working on. Go talk to industry experts, right? We don't know it all, but we can certainly learn or understand and just figure out what works and what doesn't. So I
I
guess
love it.
being open to change, you know.
Yeah, and I hear that from you, open to change and really leaning into it, right? And investing in it, right? And
Money
I
helps too.
know
We try to maintain our salaries competitive.
there you go. I
And we
like
get
it.
the best of the best. It's interesting. When we open
Another
positions, we really
another
get
impressive another impressive answer, right? Looking for the best. And I think that again, it's what I'm finding in a lot of what we're talking about today, and your experience in the private sector, and some of the learnings I'm hearing, because the way you're operating the city of Frisco is very similar to what at times I hear in
Mhm,
enterprises, which is great. I think it's okay to run a government like a business in some cases, right? And again, from efficiency to
mhm,
innovation, and then as you're pouring into the team member experience, right, from career pathing, or you call career ladders. I
mhm.
love that. I love that you promote and motivate others to go to different conferences, partnerships, right? Mentorship. I heard that from you. You don't typically hear this from a city leader. And so again, I'm going to keep saying it because I know people are hearing it. So I'm just the mouthpiece. We're really lucky to have you. How do I get a Frisco in Houston? I might need to reach out to you. We need to figure that out. So
Yeah.
that's great. Really
We
great
also
job
have a
there.
chief innovation officer that's under our again Frisco EDC, and we partner up all the time. So you can talk to him, and I'm sure he can help you out if you need to relocate.
There we go. So I know you've been doing a lot of work to get Frisco to where it is today, right? What are some of the things that you're excited about for the future? What trends are currently being talked about in your meetings behind the scenes? What are some of the things that you're looking forward to over the next 2 to 5 to 10 years, and maybe even not just the city of Frisco, but that you're hearing about the rest of the state of Texas?
A couple of things like AI powered systems, specifically around emergency response, I think can be a game changer. So
Mm,
we already have a program called a Safer Situational Awareness for Emergency Responders. It's an internally built program that leverages SRE as our platform, but it's mainly for public safety and traffic to have a common operating picture of what's going on in the city at a time. So you pull up this web page and you can see all the different calls, where the officers are at, how they're responding. And it's also has over 30 integrations real time. This is the
wow.
key, real time integration into ways
Right.
and some of these other components, including partnership, again, going back to the people and the processes with FISD, right? So first responders have to respond to school. They can see the floor plans, the contacts, their camera systems. So they get that full operating picture before they even respond or on site to the call. This really, I mean, we all know seconds and minutes means lives saved, right? So we're expanding that case use. Just this last year, we rolled out predictive analytics as far as estimated time of arrival based on kind of the different type of vehicles and how they respond, right? That's really neat. So I know Google does this already, but for government software, there's no government software that does this in a really great
Right.
way. But we were able to
Amazing.
kind of perfect that and get that feedback and continuing to tweak on it. So we can see kind of expanded case use around that, maybe leveraging again that same model for utilities. Another thing, maybe not City of Frisco, but overall, because I've worked for an electric utility, a long time ago, I can see AI powered smart grids. That would be
Oh,
pretty neat to
game
see,
changer.
right? Being able to
Yes.
tweak based on, the model. Because some of the electric utilities are already doing some of this based on some of their internal modeling, but putting AI on top of that could really be a game changer there as well.
You all
And I
heard
think
it.
Texas is pretty on the forefront of things with ERCOT and some of their engine model building. I think that's going to be pretty neat.
I think so too, and I'd love
Yeah,
to see it across Texas, right? I think,
absolutely.
and I'm not trying to create any tension here, but I think the city of Houston has a ways to go, and we need people like you down here in Houston. Austin, we're pretty familiar with a lot of innovation that has occurred there, and then Frisco is just leading the way, specific to Dallas and DFW and all of that. So really exciting. We had some questions actually come through. Um, in our direct messages in LinkedIn. And so I
Mhm.
wanted to ask you a couple more questions if you don't
Awesome.
mind.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
let's do
directly from our
it.
community members, and I'd imagine there's some government leaders asking these two. I was a little curious about who asked these because these actually came in anonymously as we were promoting this podcast. So the first question was, if you had unlimited resources, what AI driven initiative would you implement immediately to revolutionize the public sector services?
I go back to public safety again. I have a vested interest in my husband being in law enforcement for 18 years,
He's like,
but
please,
having that
Melissa,
solution
please.
or a solution integrated not only with public safety, with the hospital system, and all those interconnections would be super awesome, right? So as they're responding to 911 calls or getting some of that automation built in, we're also responding to it at that next level quicker and more efficient. So
I love that.
that would be
And I
cool.
know, I'm sure your husband will watch this at some point and just thank you. He's like, thank you so much. Finally. I love it.
And there's already AI tools already
Right.
within law enforcement. Report writing is a good case use around that, and
Yes.
there's things they're doing internally too from an analytic dashboard too.
Yes. They're doing a great job. And again, thank you to your husband and his team for all that they do for us and keeping us safe. So, here's another question. This is a really good one. For other government CIOs or innovation leaders, right? Technology leaders looking to harness AI within their government entity and team,
Okay.
what advice would you give them to ensure successful implementation and adoption?
Big bang approach never works, at least in my experience. Start small, show results, and build trust. I think that's the simplest form. And use those that want to use it. And then I think it's scalable, completely scalable and reusable. So going back to that AI call center service, we have more than one way we intake from residents in the community. If that works there, we can easily replicate that across in different areas too, right? Again, using that AI powered, you're saving time, but you're also leveraging it to its full capabilities. So
Excellent. Well, I don't want to overload your inbox or whatever platform that we're using. And I know we White Glove supports the uh, data security as well as the experience from community members. But if community members wanted to learn more about you, or if they wanted to reach out, what is the best way to do that? As I know many are going to be very excited, and I'd imagine there's going to be a lot of acknowledgement about the great work that you've been doing in the city of Frisco. How
Mhm.
can they get a hold of you, or what events can they attend? You mentioned there was a community city hall that they can come to, and I don't know what the frequency of that is, but how can they be more a part of the revolution that you're creating here at Frisco?
So I think again through those town halls, LinkedIn is another venue. I'm also getting ready to talk on our Cisco Power Girls Tech Group, so where they
Love
talk to
it.
high
That's
school
awesome.
students. I love it, right? So
Yeah.
that's one segue too, as well. So
Excellent. We'll make sure to put that in the notes as well, just so people, if those that are anticipating it and want to watch and listen, they'll be
yeah.
able to do that. That's
And
excellent.
also,
Now,
there's communities within communities, right? So, for instance, in North Texas, we're part of the North Texas Innovation Alliance. Also part of, if you're in Texas, there's for government specifically, Texas Association for Governmental IT Managers. It's a nonprofit, and several of my fellow CIOs, we're all a part of it. We're on a listserv. Trust me, we talk all the time about everything, right? So, just being able to just reach out, always get together once a month with my fellow CIOs. Like, what are you working on? How's this working? Right? We're all here trying to solve similar problems. Why not do it as a team in a community? So,
that's excellent. And that's actually was going to be the second part of my question for those government leaders. Now you're ahead of the game, as always ahead of the game, ahead of the curve. But my question was, how could government leaders reach out, and how can they be a part of the change that you're making, and the intentional, favorable disruption? So I just got another message, and I have to ask this one. This was so good. I'd love to know, and before we close, because I want to respect your time, but the question was, how do we get more women in AI, in the AI technology space?
ooh, that's a hard question. Huh?
It's a
I
great
don't
question.
know. It's a great question. I think is
You've
being
inspired
intentional.
you've inspired many, right? You've inspired many in our community, and so I think it's such an excellent question because we need more of you, and there's a lot of people that look up to you, and as they listen to this and or have read about they'd love to follow in your footsteps. And so, what can we do to encourage more women to, work their way up within the AI and technology space like you have?
I think it's just looking at nonprofits or certain events, whether it's a data open data day, working through the universities to see what kind of projects you can participate, working with nonprofits, and looking at some of those case uses that really make that public or community impact. That can be one way as well. If you're in IT and you have the ability to set up pilots, gain those different perspectives, diversify the team to make sure they're looking at it from different lenses. I think that's what makes, and I'll talk about our IT team. There's no way we would be able to do what we do if we weren't diverse and had those different
Right.
perspectives, right? So where I might not be great at details, let me tell you, my project management team, they're all over that, right? And that's good to have, right? And you also want to have, quite frankly, someone that's good at discernment, right? Because they're like, that's crazy. Let's figure out what's more realistic, right? And then you have the one that spends in awe, right? So I think just understanding what your strengths are, where you can bring maybe some of that change would be key. But if you have the ability to encourage that change, bring them to the table. So I know there's been instances we don't when we're thinking about pilots, it's not just IT. We bring in our key stakeholders and we do a what if brainstorming session, right? So and they're like, hey, what about the one that's actually part of the process? Maybe we want to include dip too. Yeah, I think that would work, right? Because you don't want to think this is going to really do a positive effect and it's causing more work. Like that's not the goal either, right? And I think that's where I think sometimes government gets it wrong.
Well,
Not
you're doing a
including the
lot of
right
right.
people in the front of the process, but doing it more at the end. So the
Right.
ideation phase as you're building it and developing that pilot, having the right people at the right time is going to be key.
Well, while government might do some things wrong at times, I'll tell you, you are doing a lot right. And so it's such a pleasure to get to know you and meet you. I was already impressed as I did a lot of homework and research on what you've accomplished and what you have worked on or what you plan on working on. And again, the city of Frisco and the state of Texas is so
Mhm.
lucky to have you as a leader for us in the government space. And we really appreciate you. I appreciate you for taking some time out of your very busy schedule to spend time with me. And before we jump off, is there anything else that you'd like to leave the audience as they circle back and watch and listen to this?
No, thank you for your time and thank you for inviting me. Hopefully, people can see we are excited about AI
Yes.
and data in the city of Frisco. But it's not
Excellent.
just the technology, it's really about the process and the people and the partnerships. So that's the big one, I would say.
That's great. Well, that's a wrap for today's episode of the AI Executive Podcast. A huge thank you to Melissa Kraft for sharing her insights in AI, smart cities, and the future of technology and government. Her leadership is truly shaping the way cities leverage AI and innovation and efficiency, as you heard. If you've enjoyed this episode, don't forget to subscribe, share, and leave a review. Leave a comment or a question in our direct messages on LinkedIn, YouTube, or any of other platforms. We're very excited to have your questions answered by some amazing guests like Melissa. So stay tuned for more conversations with leaders driving AI transformation. And as we always say, until next time, stay curious and keep innovating. Thank you so much.